And welcome back for another fun, exciting Power Hour podcast where I've got a great friend of mine, Molly Whalen. And Molly is an inspirational, a very entrepreneur woman that, is just alpha female. How, Molly? Is that how you qualify yourself?
I've never been qualified as that, but I really appreciate the kudos and standing with me in my desire to bring forth empowerment to those that haven't companies and those that are on a team of employees. Yeah. So it's great to be here.
And
Thanks.
so I know a couple decades ago, you were part of multiple Fortune 200 companies. Is that right?
That was right. When I first came out of college, I received an economics degree. I was hired by Shaw Industries, which is a Fortune 200 company. I went into an unknown territory and sold over $5 million in my first year. So I love sales. I love being a part of a team. I love empowerment and leadership. And it's something I'm extremely passionate about and have been studying it for decades.
Wow, that's awesome. Very inspirational.
Thank you.
And obviously that sounds like it kind of led to obviously starting your own business and saying, you know what, I'm making this $5 million for somebody else in 1 year. Let's try to make my own money for myself, right?
Absolutely. Ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to own my own business. It was just deep inside of me to bring forth my dreams, vision, passions into this world. And so when I moved to Bozeman, Montana, I had an opportunity to purchase a company called Mountain Maids from a former owner who was moving out of the state. And in my first year, we went from what the previous owner was doing, which was about $70,000 a year, to over $500,000.
Wow,
so
that's impressive.
Huge growth, really fast. It was very painful. I know a lot of people can understand that when you're a small business owner and you're doing it all yourself, and it's this rapid, crazy growth. And then I learned that I wasn't in the cleaning business. I was actually in the hiring business, and we can get into all of that as we go. But it was really important for me to empower the employees that I have so that I was not the only one running the business, that I actually had the support I needed to be profitable and run a great business. And today we do over $1 million a year in sales, and we have over 24 employees, and it's a great company.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I kind of look at it like this is almost like a part one of a series for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Business owners alike that are putting their heads together, that are wearing multiple hats at the same time, and kind of that growth curve.
Yes. And I feel your pain. I've heard so many people that I have coached. I also own Synergy Growth Coach, and it's a life and business coaching as well. Because of all this experience that I had, I really wanted to bring forth my talents and gifts. I always wanted to be a psychologist.
Oh, there we go.
But yes, back in the day, and when I was at Indiana University and I was going into psychology, all of my professors were nuts. They really were. So, and I thought, wow, I really don't associate with them, even though they were incredibly brilliant. They just had all these limiting beliefs of that they weren't good enough, and they struggled in relationships. And I looked at them and I thought, that is not who I want to be.
So you almost need like a life balance.
You do.
And so this Synergy, growth coach, and obviously you're doing life coaching as well.
Yes.
You can't just be a business coach. It's a life coach.
You have to marry the two.
You got to marry the two to find that balance.
You do. And what's really interesting is traditional coaching. Because of owning my own business, I really looked out to every resource out there. I was reading Harvard business journals. I was reading every business book out there. And although those were great because they gave me the structure, how to market, all of the things that you need, there was a huge missing gap, and it was extremely painful. None of those books gave me the confidence and what I needed the most, which was safety, right? I didn't think it was safe to fail. So if it's not safe to fail, I was doing everything I could to not fail. right? So I'm going over and beyond and working 60 plus hours a week in my business and really driving it. And then I realized my superpower was to create safety for my employees.
Mm.
And so I created this safe space for them.
So you took
to
the risk on your
Yes.
shoulders to have them feel safe. And I
That's
think
correct.
a lot of business owners can probably say, oh, I'm doing that. You know,
Yes.
everyone kind of standing in line, slowly putting their hand up like that, right?
Absolutely. I've heard it over and over that that business owners put so much on themselves to create that environment for their employees.
Right.
And then they give so much to their employees and then their employees are gone.
Yeah.
And then you're rehiring and
Yeah.
redoing. And we can talk about some of those
Right.
pitfalls.
Just like a rotating door.
It is. And I'm excited to share, but that'll be in the next podcast, all about
Good. So
employee engagement.
let's do a part 2 on that.
We will.
And so to kind of piggyback off what you were saying is you first were working on Fortune 200 companies, helping them build their empire.
Correct.
And you're like, you know what? I want to carve off my own empire. So you started Mountain Maids, correct?
Correct.
And that was roughly 2 decades ago.
It was.
Roughly, 2005?
In 7 when I
2007?
purchased it.
Wow, how cool is that? And you brought it from 70K and you times that by probably about 12-fold now.
Yes,
correct?
we're over $1 million.
Over $1 million business.
Yes.
And that was roughly about 3 years ago. You started Synergy Growth Coach and Life Coaching because you found this balance of, you know what, if I can find this balance, I can teach my employees and I can teach other business owners that I just went through 15 years. They don't have to go through that experience. Learn, take my experience upon your shoulders.
And that's really important to me because if I had somebody like myself 15, 18 years ago, the growth and the painful growth wouldn't have existed. I would have realized what I was doing and the patterns I was creating. Because if you're showing up in, I have to do everything by myself.
Right.
Or I'm invisible and nobody sees me.
Yeah.
Or I'm not good enough. And so many of us feel that we have, imposter syndromes. We backslide. We procrastinate. We feel overwhelmed.
Right.
And
anxiety, stress.
All of that. And nothing in a business book is going to teach you how to break free of those.
Right.
And if you're creating from that space of fear or lack or invisibility, if you're really invisible, how are your clients finding you?
Right.
How are your employees finding you?
Right.
And your superpower is to make everybody else very visible. And when you're in that pattern, so you make your employees visible, your clients visible, but you shrink back. And so you may say, well, I put out my website, but nobody finds it. Right. I create ads and it's so painful because I spend all this money and nobody sees it.
Right.
I create an event and nobody shows up.
Right.
And it's extremely painful when you're in those situations and nobody out there is showing you how to break free of those.
Well, I do know somebody that is showing people, and you did mention events. And I know you just came back from a very wonderful sold-out event.
Yes.
That was here in Bozeman. Do you mind kind of maybe touching in on that?
Yeah, it was incredible. It was last Wednesday. It's for the Bozeman Professional Women's Group. And there was almost 50 women in attendance. It was the highest attendance they've ever had. And these women were amazing.
Awesome.
They all were business owners. They were all struggling with some of the same things. They talked about how painful it's been to grow, how painful it is to be on their own, how painful it is to not make a profit, how painful it is to find employees, invest employees, and have them gone. So they're all experiencing the same thing. And during the luncheon, I really touched on the map to unshakable confidence, which I'd love to share with you. But before we move on to that, I do want to let everybody out there know that Bozeman Professional Women's Group is amazing. They showcase their members and they showcase women's businesses. they're having an expo where they have over 30 booths.
Wow.
It's going to be on May 2nd, 2024. And it's from 5 to 8. It's at the fairgrounds. And so we're going to have food and hard cider there, and crumble cookies will be there. So part of the admission is that. And there's also 30 opportunities to win something. So it's going to be an incredible evening full of really bright, intelligent women. And I hope the Bozeman community and Livingston and Belgrade and Big Sky community come out and show their support for women.
That's super cool.
Yes.
I mean, that's very empowering at that point.
Yes.
And if I was to be like, thinking about what's your demographic, are you looking for experienced women? Are you looking for women that haven't even started their own business yet? At what kind of level is your demographic? So
for me, it can be anything, right? But what's really impactful and powerful is women that have started their business and men who have started their business, and they're in that space of really feeling that exponential growth, and they're having some painful setbacks.
Got it.
Those are the people that I can really help launch and exponentially launch and really quickly.
Right.
New businesses are great, but there's so many things going on to start a business as far as, finding financing and all of that. And SBA and SCORE are great resources if you're starting your business from the ground level up. I highly recommend getting a SCORE mentor who can really help you get to a point where you're ready to launch, and then finding somebody like me that can just kick you over the edge.
Well, I feel like we're already diving into some meat.
Yes.
Meat and potatoes right now. And I think before maybe even we start part one, this is an amazing introduction where I think a lot of people said, whoa, SCORE, what is that?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so I think that's some great knowledge. Your expertise will bring us to those next facets of running your own business.
Yes.
Starting a business from 101, wearing 20 hats at the same time, juggling, being a wife, being a mom,
mother,
being, buying groceries, getting to Costco before they close.
That's right.
And so
not running out of gas.
Not running out. Sounds like you got some experience on that one.
Running to a client meeting and running out of gas.
And just having that overwhelming feeling, but at the same time having the same drive to get above these hurdles, to get to that. And I think that's what we really want to hear. And I bet a lot of people are just dying to know about, how do we take this event that you just had recently, take that like opening up an envelope and looking at the package for the first time. Like I think of it like Christmas, right? And everyone's like, oh, I just want to open up this package, right? I just want to start throwing stuff out, and I want Molly to dive into it, right? And so what we're going to go ahead and do is, everyone stay tuned. This is more of an introduction into Molly and Molly's world. Okay. In this clarity. So she's got basically a map to clarity in unshakable confidence. And that's going to be a multiple part series.
Correct.
We can't just throw it all out at once. Correct.
Right.
We're going to break it into bite-sized chunks.
Yes.
And so everyone stay tuned, and we're going to jump right in on this new package, this new amazing concepts that Molly's going to bring to us. And so stay tuned for the next one. This is Alden Antonucci, Extreme Power Hour, and Molly Whalen. Stay tuned for the next.